Welcome to Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. Each week, the NI Bullpen will be covering the world of comics, talking to creators, deep diving into some fantastic stories, and much more. Now let's hand it over to the team and turn a page.
And what is going on, everyone? It is Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you are tuned in for an all-new edition of Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast. I'm also Nerd Initiative editor-in-chief. To my left, in the middle of us right here at home, because I have to switch up the intro now, you know him as the host of Wrestling Night Live, but he's also one of our comic reviewers extraordinaire. Please give a warm welcome to the one and only Rich.
I took the time out of this busy week because it is a huge wrestling week, so I'm happy to be here and watch some wrestling this weekend, WrestleMania weekend. So there you go.
Yes. And on the far end of the table is in his own contract. He has to do his own intro.
Coming at 11 direct straight from the ODPH studios. My name's Off the Cuff Tom, Nerd Initiative's pop culture connoisseur. Ken, Rich, Tony, always a pleasure.
Absolutely. And we are very, very fortunate to have a guest online who is an amazing series out right now that if you're not familiar with, you need to get familiar with. It's one of our bullpen favorites here, done by Image Comics. Definitely taking the world of horror and zombies and all types of, dare I say, outbreak type elements and mixing it up in a very unique version that we've only seen a few other places maybe, but nothing done like this before because this man's work speaks for itself. You know him from such stories as Stray Dogs, Local Man, Venom War, Wolverine, and Deadpool, and the upcoming Thing for Marvel Comics. But we're going to be talking about Feral. Please welcome to the show the one and only Tony Fleecs. Tony, what is going on?
Hell yeah, everybody. Happy to be here. Thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction. Happy to be hanging out with you guys. This is the first time I think I've done a podcast where the guys are in the same room together. Do you guys live together? What is this?
No, we're nearby.
I'm bottom bunk.
No, we just live by each other, so sometimes it's nice to do it together. It's a nice little.
Hell yeah, this is great.
Synergy.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of great, Feral, like we alluded to, one of our favorite series here at Nerd Initiative. So, Tony, why don't you break down how did this whole story come to be?
Well, we had done the book Stray Dogs a couple years prior to this, and Stray Dogs was an idea I had that sort of came out of having worked on My Little Pony for a long time. And Trish, the artist of the book, also worked on My Little Pony, and I just sort of had this idea that was sort of like, took all the stuff I learned from doing that book for like 10 years and was like, what if I did that through my own prism? Like, what's my version of a cute animal book? And it's sort of this dark, sort of like frightening Don Bluth-y horror version of a Disney movie. So Stray Dogs, we didn't expect it to do. We expected people would like it, hopefully, but we didn't expect it to be like very successful, and it was very successful. And then halfway through it, we were like, well, this book has an ending, and we don't want to just stretch it out for no good reason. But what's a version of this that we could do for a long, long time? And that's when we started cooking up the idea of Feral. Like, what's a way to do a horror story about animals that's different from this and also goes on and on. So like, whereas Stray Dogs all takes place in one house, Feral takes place out in the wild, and these cats are they get thrown all over the place in different situations and different, it's not just one villain that they're sort of like trapped with. It's everything in the whole world wants to kill them or eat them or chase them. So it's just sort of like amping up all the stuff that we learned how to do in Stray Dogs, or that we sort of, all the tricks we figured out in Stray Dogs, like try and figure out a way to flip that and amp it up.
So my takeaway there is that you had pretty much My Little Pony PTSD. So kind of
well,
like.
I always thought about it as like Scotty Young, when he finished the Oz books, was like, this, let me make my version of what this is. Or when the original Image guys left the X-Men books, they were like, what would I do with that type of thing if I could just do whatever I wanted? So like Youngblood and Wildcats are like their version of like an X-Force for them or an X-Men for them.
So going back to Feral, though, usually I'm always famous for asking this: what is the elevator pitch for Feral as a story? Like we touched upon some of it, but like your elevator pitch for why people, what it's about for the people at home who may have not read it yet.
Yeah, of course. It's 3 indoor cats get lost in the woods during a huge rabies outbreak, like a super rabies, something we've never seen before. And it's about them trying to figure out how to get to safety. Where can they go that's safe? Is anywhere safe? And if they get scratched or bit, they get into these rabid monsters that they're on the run from right now. So it's basically like a zombie story with cats.
Now, going into this, coming off of Stray Dogs, what was it like that, just said, hey, let's keep the band together, and what can we do to, bring this out? Like, we've done the dog thing. Like, at what point did you say, hey, let's not stick with dog and let's move over to cats? How did this, all come back together?
Well, I mean, I don't even know that was a conversation that lasted more than 15 seconds. It was just like I said, we knew that we wanted to continue working together, and we knew that with Stray Dogs, we had a definitive ending. Like, it was all outlined and all the beats were in it from when Trish started even working on it. So we knew we didn't want to just do more dogs, and also we were just very happy with how that book turned out. So it seemed like if you ever did anything again with dogs or anything, it would be compared to that, or it could sort of like tarnish that. And so what can we do? Like, we were like, if we're not doing dogs, let's absolutely do cats. And then it's about figuring out what, like, the way that Stray Dogs was, it wasn't just that it's a murder story with dogs in it. It was important to the story that they were dogs. Like, there were parts of that story that were specific to them being dogs. And so what's a version of that for cats, where it's like, if this was about rabbits or something else, like, it would be a completely different story.
So we're not going to get like flying off parakeets down the road as another spinoff.
I mean, that might be fun. Well, we have sort of ideas for what the next horror animal story would be, but Feral, the same way we designed it to be different from Stray Dogs in like content and form, we also designed it to be different in that it'll run for a long time. So whatever we get to next, hopefully it'll be.
I'll just put this out here. If you guys remember the Good Feathers from Animaniacs?
Oh, yeah.
Like, think of Sopranos.
Gangster Birds.
There you go.
Gangster Birds.
I'm all in.
I'm in all of a sudden.
Now, you were talking about how the fact of switching to the cats, the dogs to the cats, and what were some of the constraints that you felt as a writer, either writing from humans or ponies to quadrupeds, really, and then on top of that, coming off of writing for and about dogs, and then again in as far as writing about cats?
Well, I mean, constraints isn't really the word. Like, going from working on somebody else's licensed property to working on your own thing, like, that's the whole game, right? Like, it's just, right. I was working on My Little Pony. I did 50 issues of that book. I did hundreds of covers. It was basically my full-time job for like almost 10 years. And so that wasn't so much. I mean, there are constraints there, but they're the normal. I draw a children's TV show comic book constraints. They don't want you to have murder in there. They don't want you to have, serial killers or bad language, or they don't want the ponies to die or be mortally wounded. But it wasn't like I was like hitting those constraints and just being like, oh, I feel so constrained. Like, it was just like, that's what that job is. But in making my own thing, it was like, well, let's make a world where all those things are on the table, right? Like, if this is mine, and I don't have to worry about selling toys or having a TV show or whatever, like, what would I do if I could do anything? But like, the difference between dogs and cats was definitely something we thought about, especially when putting Feral together. Like, one of the main story points of Stray Dogs is, hey, Trish is on. No more talking shit about Trish, who draws Feral.
We'll throw the link.
But yeah, it wasn't about like, in Stray Dogs, a lot of it was about dogs' limitations, like their memory. They don't have thumbs. They can't open doors. They couldn't escape. Like, I could trap my dog in an unlocked room just by shutting the door, and so it's like, all of these things become problems when you're a dog that's trapped by a serial killer. And so in Feral, we thought a lot about like, all right, well, what are the difference and what are sort of unique strengths and weaknesses that cats have? And so we gave our cats longer memories than our dogs had. Just the idea that sort of dogs seem to have more, or cats seem to have, I always feel like they know secrets, or like they have an attitude about things. They're silently judging you. And so that didn't really square with the way we play dogs, is that they're sort of like lovable and forgetful. And so doing cats was different there. And like we have it so like they've sort of figured out how to open some doors, and they can get up a tree if they need to. But then we also, worked in the idea of limitations, where some of them are declawed and some of them are, like they all have different personalities, but also different strengths and weaknesses.
Now, I just gotta say, I think that's fantastic. Especially, I have been a cat owner for 20 some odd years, and I have had declawed cats that we got prior to us taking them in. I have a cat that I've had to change out the door handle on my bedroom because she figured out how to open up the latch. She begs for water. Like they know how to play us. So trust me, I completely agree.
Good. I'm glad that all reads as realistic.
Mm-hmm. And then, between you and Trish, your style, not only in Stray Dogs, but also here in Feral, is very Don Bluth-esque. What were some of those old movies that he's done that has inspired you? And Trish, you can always drop it in the chat too.
A lot of it was All Dogs Go to Heaven. Like that's the obvious initial like jump off point, but also Secret of Nim had such like atmosphere and so scary, has characters that are so sort of like over the top and frightening. But yeah, he was a real like a jumping off point for a lot of this stuff. Even in the latest issue, there's a bear, and we were like, well, let's look at that bear that he did in Fox and the Hound, before he left Disney. So yeah, we're always sort of like going back to Don Bluth. And one of the main reason that I went and talked to Trish in the first place was that I had seen a sketch that she did where she did like a spot on Don Bluth impersonation, and she had trained with him and she went to like a Don Bluth online course.
That's awesome.
That's cool. That's really cool. Switching gears though, because I'm a big horror fan, and this book really has an imaginative take on horror. It's because obviously it's a horror book, and I guess I have a couple of the questions here. But my first one is, what in the horror genre? What was your biggest influences for Feral?
The Crazies is a real big one. George Romero's The Crazies. Obviously, like I went back and looked at all my favorite zombie stuff. The Romero stuff, but even like 28 Days Later and the like the Italian zombie stuff, and there's like something in all of those that I try to bring. Like I like it to be gory like Italian stuff, but I also like it to be sort of like grounded like the Romero stuff. And that's mainly what I'm putting into my brain is horror content. All the like I have a obsessive physical media collection that I'm just like, I thought I had that. I don't know why I don't have that. And like these, huge shelves and shelves of, DVDs from the past 30 years and Blu-rays and 4Ks. And so I'm always trying to find something that I hadn't seen before, or find some new, the older you get and the more stuff you watch, the more you're just looking for something to, it's not like it needs to be shocking, but it's like find a new way in to get me, like find a way to get me on edge that I haven't felt before. That like I feel like 20 years ago, that's a lot of what like The Ring and The Grudge and like that type of stuff was doing. Like that, there's every once in a while they'll like discover a new lane of horror where it's like, you guys haven't gotten scared this way for a long time, or maybe nobody's ever approached it just like this. So I'm always sort of on the search for something new or old like that, where it's like maybe there's a lane here where they can frighten me, because my heart is all bandaged up and damaged, and it's harder to impact. When you're a kid and it's just anything scary, you're just like, that's the scariest thing. Freddy Krueger was like the most terrifying thing you'd ever seen, and then you watch it now, he's just kind of joking around a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a comedy act. And I'm glad you brought up Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street, because one of my favorite parts about the whole Feral series is the variant covers. And the variant covers all pay homage to different horror films. And it's awesome. It's one of the things as a collector and as somebody who likes to decorate my walls and everything goes nuts about. So which one of the homages, if you will, really surprised you when you first saw it? And which one was your favorite out of all of the covers that paid homage to the horror films?
I mean, none of them have surprised. Well, the Halloween cover surprised me because I didn't think there was a way for us to pull it off. And Trish was like, I know how to do this. And I was like, there's no way to get it where it looks like a cat, you know? And she was like, let me just draw it and I'll show you. And she showed me and I was like, oh, sure enough, that does look just like you want it to look. So she came up with this real clever instead of doing a pumpkin, it's like a cat's paw. But they never really surprised me otherwise, because for the most part, I'm the one that goes like, we're going to do this movie this month. And then the way the process works on those is I'll send Trish the poster and then she'll send it back to me with pencils, sometimes pencils and inks where it's just the cat in like that horror situation, you know? And so then either I'll ink it and color it, or I'll ink it and get it colored. And then I'm the one that does the letters and the design and everything on it too. So it's sort of, I sort of am in charge of running those things every month. And we get to the point where we're sort of running low on movies. So if you have suggestions,
Jason X,
drop them in the chat. Jason X is a good one. Good call.
Jason X is a good call. I would say Jason X is a good call. Another one is, I don't know how it would work out with cats, but April Fool's Day would also be a fun cats one.
That's the tough one. Is like figuring out the ones that are so a person's body centric. It's like figuring out how to make that a cat, make that work with a cat. April Fool's Day, maybe you just make the cat's tail into a noose.
Yeah, that actually might be the way to do it. Actually, I think we just thought this one out, because that was what I was like, it's one of my favorite underrated horror films, just because it was so different in the age of slasher. It was a slasher film, and I won't ruin it for you, but it has a great twist ending. But I've always just been a fan. That's why I was making a joke to Ken earlier. I was like, I need to get art prints of all of these so I can just hang them around my studio, because I dig it. I like cats and I love horror movies, so it's perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, we hopefully we'll do like a birthday, or not a birthday. Hopefully we'll do like a poster book would be cool. Like do like a portfolio book version of that one day, and just, you know, we have so many of them at this point between retailer covers and our covers, but even if you just did the ones that we have done on Stray Dogs and Feral, it's got to be over, you know, 75, 100. I mean, we got to be closing in on 100 by now at some point.
Wow. I mean, issue 1, like I said earlier before we went on air, had 31 variant covers between second printings and everything on top of it.
That's amazing. But it's a testament to the work, and especially like how these characters gravitate towards the audience too, especially doing the twist of horror with cats and really bringing that out, and especially the characters that are behind this, and especially dealing with Lord, Patch, and my least favorite one, because every time I see her on panel, I'm yelling, Elise, what did you do now? Or Elsie, what did you do now? Like every time. What has been your favorite character in Feral to write, and why?
Oh man. Well, Lord is fun to write. I was talking to my sister about this the other day, but just that, like, writing Lord's dialogue is fun, because I like that he's sort of even at the worst times, usually he bounces back pretty easy, you know, like he stays pretty positive. And I like the idea that he's just sort of like an excited, like we always describe him as the cat that has the zoomies, you know, and he's a little bit on the spectrum. And he's just sort of like always excited to see you and talk to you. And you know, like that's fun to write. But I like writing Elsie too, especially just because we've sort of put her in this place where she's like, has so much to dig out from. She constantly fucks up. Like when you read the first issue, you're like, oh, this Lord is a fuck up. And then, you know, hopefully by the time you get to 10, you're like, Elsie is, this is the Darth Vader of Feral.
Yeah. Oh, I'm right there with you, because I'm going through the progression of it, and I'm just like, not to give any spoilers away, but I was just like, Elsie, every time you do something, like after we get past issue 3, it's like everything is just walking disaster with her, and it's just like and everything that they do that gets you in trouble is because of you. Poor Patch, who is like my favorite one, but is just, I'm sorry, Tom. Yes, I was going to bring him up. I had to. Like I say, who's the single issue, I believe it was issue 6 there, was just his point of view. Like that, I think, was just
heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking, but it goes back to how these characters are connecting, and it's going outside of just what you see with this, with being like the animated style. It's like they're real characters, and you can really connect with them on that level because you can sense about how horror is just such a universal theme. Would you say?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I mean, yeah, that's a lot of it in sort of like plotting it and writing it. Is I think about like how I would react in a situation like this, and how I would feel like I would get things wrong, and I feel, like on my best day I fuck things up, and so like the idea of like, that's my buddy Baxter. He's just over there scratching himself. He's making he's jingling. On my best day, I screw things up. And so I think about like, how would I handle this on the worst possible day? Like when it all goes wrong. And so like I said, I don't think Elsie is a good person, but I have a lot of fun writing her just because I'm just like, she's really trying and she just keeps screwing it up. And I enjoy like putting her in a place where eventually either she's going to die or she's going to, show her, be able to show her quality, right? She'll be able to,
and that's what's going on with us. Ken wants that seesaw to go one way, and I want her to have the come to cat Jesus moment, but not in the best way possible. I think she really needs to get dragged through the litter box, and I'm going to make as many cat puns as possible today. So just
he has a notebook ready here.
I'm not kidding.
You've been taking notes.
Since Ken gave me this book, I'm not kidding. And you and I have spoken offline. I really am over the moon about this entire series, and I'm waiting every single month for the next issue. And it's at breakneck speed that I go right through it.
Yeah. Well, that's the book really does move, and I'm trying to figure out how to. We try to plan little beats, like little moments where it's like, all right, let's slow down for a minute, because you're always in these cats' POV. So like it never switches to some other place where we can take a breather for a second. Like they are on the run until they're not on the, like until they find some place where they can chill or they can stop. But yeah, for the first, issue 6, even issue 6 moves the whole time, but it's like they're running. And then you get to the cat lady house and it's like, they're stuck there and they're running some more. So yeah, it's, we're trying to pace this thing, but it does move really, really fast. I feel like if I handed somebody 2 trades, I could come back around, like in 45 minutes. And they're just like, all right, what happens next?
Yeah. But the pacing works for it though, because I think especially it captures the excitement and the danger that's going on, because with the rabies outbreak, it's not slowing down. It's only getting worse. And then even as you're following them along, there's never that sense of like, I want to say like peace, because like you think about it like in comparison to The Walking Dead, like when they go and they set up camp somewhere and like everything's all nice for a while. There's never really that moment here, and I think that's one thing that really stands out is there's never really kind of that moment of peace except with the cat lady thus far.
Yeah.
Until you start diving into her character, which I know Tom has got a question about.
Oh, we talked about this before. Knowing the fact that you've all done your homework in regards to certain qualities that particular cats have, like Ghost, you nodded to the fact that he's deaf, and a good majority of blue-eyed cats also are deaf, because that's just how it is. But the fact that particularly with the cat lady, the lady, toxoplasmosis, like to use that, and a lot of people might hear it, especially like when women are pregnant or whatnot, hey, don't touch the litter box. But to use that as a plot point in comics, like who the heck came up with that one? And whoever did, big old pat on the back.
Oh, well, I come up with all of, thank you. Dennis Culver, who's the editor, and I, we get together and we sort of break story, but all the major beats are stuff that I come up with for the most part. But yeah, we wanted them to try and find a place. Every time they're sort of like put in a new situation, it's a situation that should feel safe, and then eventually it ends up that like this is the unsafe version of it. So yeah, they're used to being taken care of by people, and they get in this place with this lady, and yeah, the idea that this lady was sort of like cut off from society, and she was just in this house with her cats, and she, you know, sort of spinning out. I imagine toxoplasmosis is probably not the only thing that was the matter with that lady to start with, but then,
Yeah, I mean,
To put it mildly, yeah.
eventually she, you know, she catches the rabies as well, and so it's just like, you know, she's just having this, you know, she's spinning out inside this shack with all these cats.
mhm.
So with the series, what has been the craziest idea you've held back on doing, if any at all?
Well, Trish is in the chat. She'll tell you there's some things I come up with that she's just like, I don't think we want to do that. That doesn't. There've been a few things recently that I'm like, let's do this, and she's like, is this? I think people are going to think that's too much. There hasn't really been. I mean, we try to keep it so that it doesn't. Like, what are you growling at me for? Hold on. We try to, like, there's a style that this thing fits into. Like, this animated style, you can push it pretty far, but there is stuff where, like, if you do, you know, like if it gets too disgusting or too detailed, almost like too detailed, right? Like, these are cartoon cats. So if we, this is stuff that I'm sure has me on watch lists or whatever, but it's, you know, like if we chop them in half, do they look like a regular cat that you dissected, or do they look like a cartoon cat that you dissected, or is it like you know, like a Chopsaki movie where as soon as you pop their head off, it's just blood goes everywhere, and that's and like that's what you're dealing with. So it is sort of like we're always like riding a line with the gore and the violence in this, in how far can we push it before it doesn't feel like what the style of this thing is. And so far we haven't really hit the limit. I don't think, but I'm sure we will at some point. You know,
I was gonna say it's got a great balance. I think it's right there.
Oh yeah, it's definitely got the fair balance, because like I say, you want to give that horror element, but I don't think it goes too far. I think it teases just enough that you get the gist. I mean, like with any like true horror, it's the psychological stuff is even more worse than the actual like gore fest that you see a lot, and especially with dealing with the psychological aspect, especially with how it's affecting each one of them. And like I say, the character that jumps out to me is Patch, because everything you're seeing him go through is just really it's the tragic tale, but he's still trying to be the tragic hero with everything going on. And I think it just goes back to the dynamic of the characters, and especially in dealing with like the family bond or the dysfunctional one with Lord and Elsie. You know, when you're dealing with something like this, like how important is that to add to a horror story?
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's the fundamental thing, is like you want to have a threat that feels threatening, that feels insurmountable, but then right underneath that is you have to have characters that you care about, and what that comes from is having them be identifiable. You know, in this case, we're trying to have them be identifiable cat types, but also people types. You know, like Elsie is the kind of cat that likes to be on her own, but isn't like the frightened kind. She just sort of like the queen of the household, right? Like she'll go out and be by herself, and she doesn't want to be bothered by anyone, but she also will come around and you know, like try and be you know, if she wants to be pet or if she wants to be fed or whatever, like she'll be loving and stuff like that. So you think about like, all right, well, that's a person type as well, right? And so like merging those two things together, and then how does she fit into a family where, you know, like a Lord's sort of out of control, but also, you know, like vulnerable, and then Patch is sort of like this more like, I'll say like he's a know-it-all. Like he just sort of is more timid, you know, and more like he's like the we shouldn't go in there type character in a horror movie, you know, like and so like making all those characters fit together, and like, you know, one becomes the leader, and then the other ones are still being people and still being like having problems, and the person, all they want to do is just push forward, and it's like, well, we can't because we have to stop, and this, my brother is being a huge pain in the ass. I have to go deal with this right now. And then we can go back to escaping. So I think about it a lot, and I think about as we're going along and adding new characters, trying to make sure that we're holding on to how everybody fits together, how new characters impact the dynamics, and also like how to, what I love about this book is that we're going on for a long enough time that we can really get in and flesh all of them out and really, see how they interact with each other and what's going on inside themselves, and their extreme violence and cats, like all my favorite things.
Not just considering the original 3, but when you added Gigi and then her and her kittens, this adds a whole new dynamic. How are you going to develop the kittens' personalities out? Are they going to reflect anybody that they're around? Or are they all going to be shy and timid, having growing up in this type of environment?
Or completely like they've never known what it's like to be inside of a safe place. Like they're only grown up in this sort of like trauma environment. And it's not accidental that that it's two girls and a boy, and the Elsie's family is 2 boys and a girl. And so it sort of like mirrors that. We're excited about sort of like following the kids. We're having a lot of fun right now with them just being little kids, but we have plans for like sort of like where we get to take them and what happens with them. And then Gigi, I almost end up writing Gigi will end up being sort of like the POV character a lot of the time now, just because she's the one. She's like Trish's POV for sure, because she's always the one that's just like, Elsie, you stupid bitch. We're all, we're all gonna die if you don't stop leading us down these into these horrible situations. And that's what Trish is always telling me when I send the scripts. But like, if you're up to speed, like Gigi just had like a horrible injury, and she's sort of like on a way to becoming, like she starts out like this house cat that's very fluffy and has like a diamond collar, and then like as we're carrying on through this thing, now she's a mother and she's very protective, and she's sort of like getting stronger and stronger. And so like we're taking her almost like on like a Sarah Connor path, where she gets to sort of be like the
she's Tiger Mom,
warrior mom. Yeah, exactly.
Well, being that Feral just had its birthday, if you will, a 1-year anniversary, how does it feel being part of the ongoing surge of titles that are happening over at Image Comics currently?
It feels good. Is it a surge? Are we surging?
You're seeing a lot more pickups of ongoing lately. Like I think just with like the Ghost Machine brand coming out and the Energon universe, but also plus titles like Fall in Love on the Path to Hell. Black Cloak was there. Phantom Road is just coming back, and it's like you guys are right in there in that mix, and you're seeing a lot more ongoing, which is amazing to see. Just even hearing that word on the indie side of things, ongoing.
Well, it is not easy. That's for sure. Like just even like beside the like you're always on deadline, always putting out this book, and them being creator owned, there's nobody. I mean, Image will be like, hey, this is due on this day, but there's nobody besides us is like encouraging us to make sure we have the book done. So we really have to stay on top of it all the time. And then it is just tough to keep people invested over the course of a long running title. Like I appreciate you guys having me on and being up to speed on this here, a year in, because it is hard to, it's not easy. It's always hard to make noise about comics, especially the way social media is sort of fractured now.
Yeah.
And there's no Wizard, and there's no, CBR is different, and Newsarama doesn't exist. And like all these places that you used to just go announce a comic. Now it's stuff like this. It's podcasts, it's TikTok, and you just hope you hit some algorithmic a geyser that every once in a while one of my books will just sell out at the distributor level, and you're just like, what happened? And you're just like, oh, some TikToker recommended it and it went crazy. But it all is different, and so it's it feels great to have an Image comic that is set up to be able to run this long. Like, we really tried to hit big numbers on issue 1, because that's sort of, when you're doing a creator-owned book, that's sort of what you're doing, is you want to launch high enough that you can afford to fall for a while before it starts to, creep back up, and before you have enough trade paperbacks that becomes a part of the equation. So yeah, it feels good. I mean, beyond just wanting to work together more, like, there is a part of me that looks at my favorite Image comics that went on for a long time, the Sagas and Chews and Walking Dead and Spawns and Savage Dragon, and just thinks that, like, how crazy would it be to be able to be one of those, to have like one of those big crazy hardcover sets or whatever,
And speaking as a follow-up, how long do you see Feral going on for?
Well, I've always been saying I'm thinking about it in terms of 60, which means, the books we're working on right now, we're about a quarter of the way into it. But if we're at 50 issues or 45 issues and it's cooking, I would love to just keep doing it. Like, we have an ending for it, but there's enough room in the middle where we can sort of like grow and improvise, add characters, delete characters, and just sort of like really explore this world. And what I'm having fun with is how we are so in the cat's POV that we can really slow roll what it looks like in the rest of the world. So, like, we're gonna get through this third arc. I'm working on issue 14 and 15 right now. Script for 15, and we're physically working on 14. We just sent in 13 yesterday. But like, the third arc is just all cats. It's not, like, we get a little bit of like, what's going on with these people, but eventually it will broaden out where it's never going to be like people characters. Like, it always stays in the POV of the cats, but we'll get a lot more information about sort of like how widespread this thing is and what it means and all that stuff.
That was actually going to be my follow-up question. Like, are we ever going to figure out how this outbreak came to be? Is there going to be a cat that just happens to be hanging out in the lab and just knocks over the wrong thing and
cures it?
Just goes and pushes it off the shelf?
I think we'll get more information about it, but I'm really committed to the idea of, we just stay in the cat's POV. And so if the cats are around and somebody mentions what they think the origins of it are, that's something. But I mean, look at coronavirus, like, you ask 4 different people what the origins of it are, they're going to give you 4 different answers. And so it's like, what are they going to be standing next to the CDC doctors? Are they going to be standing next to an expert, or are they just, sat next to a YouTube that somebody clicked on, So I think that's interesting. And I think that's, it's definitely challenging to keep the threat of it out there without having like those Spawn news anchors pop up and just be like, another, deadly day for the rabies virus in northeastern United States, figuring out ways, like you saw in the first couple of arcs, we found little ways to like squeeze in information about it through like radios or TVs and stuff like that. But it really has to all come through the cats being near enough to something where even though they don't understand it, the reader will hear about it, and then we can just sort of get back to them running away from rabid monsters.
Now, speaking of, adding things in human wise, we've seen a lot, especially at the ladies' house. There are a few famous cats in the background that were unnamed. Now, I've picked up on at least the Aristocats, Garfield. There might have been a Felix in there. Was there anybody else I was missing per se?
I think, officially, none of those characters are in there.
Allegedly.
Cats that look like.
Allegedly.
Yeah, There was a cat in there that had a Azrael from the Smurfs sort of vibe to them for sure.
Okay. All right.
I would have to look at it. That was all Trish. I was like, here's a page we have to draw 100 cats in here. And she was like, well, then I'm having fun.
And because of those cats, how many of the actual team's cats have been featured in the book at some point?
None of them. Is that not true? In Stray Dogs, it was a lot more.
Okay.
Stray Dogs was a lot more us drawing our dogs into the book. But we haven't put any of like our cats or our family's cats in here. I don't think. Gigi might have been based a little bit on a cat that Trish had. But in this one, we're more like sort of casting them based on just Trish drawing the best cat design we can think of.
I'm just waiting for the one brain cell orange cat to show up.
The stupidest orange cat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, folks, if you don't know, at the back of the book, you can actually submit pictures of your own cats too, for the keyboard cats.
Yeah,
I might have to start stuff in the ballot box.
I was just putting that together for issue 13 Sunday night, and I was looking at the dates because we're just going down through the email inbox, one at a time, and we're literally 1 year behind. So if you sent in a picture of your cat, it will be in there, but it was we're still in like the first 40.
Got it.
No, yeah. Stick with us.
No, absolutely. I mean, me personally, I'm keeping a finger crossed, or actually a couple. We see Pepper from Local Man sneak on there. I know it's kind of crossing worlds, but still, we could always see that.
Yeah, we got Pepper. Well, Pepper has superpowers, so it sort of breaks the feral world where the cats don't have superpowers.
And let's not forget, we've also seen the stray dogs over in the Gargoyles universe as well. Are we going to see a few cats pop up in there too?
We haven't done any gargoyle stuff in a while, so maybe, I don't know. That would be up to hopefully they're still doing gargoyles books over there. I don't know. Good question. There's a Sophie from Stray Dogs appearance in Local Man too. She shows up in there, and there was a Pecos Pete from Uncanny Valley showed up in the Cat Lady house, but I think we kept covering him up with cats because I didn't want to cross the Boom image streams like that. But you can look in the back. Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking of it, I think I do remember seeing the back of the house there. But I mean, that's just like, you can see all the influences that you have here too. And you kind of touched upon it a little earlier about image and being, having those being an influence. And my question for you there is, out of the 7 original Image comics that came out, which one was your favorite?
Well, at the time, I was definitely first. I was big Youngblood. Like that's what got me in the door at Image Comics. I was there for Youngblood. Youngblood Strike File was huge. Like I was going crazy for Jay Lee at when he was putting out that time. And then probably the answer is all of them. Like I was buying all of them. But then it was Spawn for a long time. And then out of the original 7, it was like Youngblood and then Spawn. And then I definitely kept up with everything Jim Lee was doing. Like I loved the Wildcats. And then I got into Cyberforce through when they crossed over with Wildcats and then sort of like went backwards that way. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Or like when they did Image X Month, and that sort of took me over to books that I hadn't been reading before that. Like I was just like, well, I'm going to read this Jim Lee Savage Dragon. And I was like, well, Savage Dragon rules. So then I got to read, find the other 15 issues of that. And, but yeah, I came in for Youngblood, and then I sort of found my way to everything else. But I had been into definitely Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee at Marvel. Yeah, because that was when I was like 11 years old. So that was following those guys over was the easiest, the most beautiful decision I ever made. I was so excited to see those guys that I loved doing superheroes and like, Marvel comics. I was excited to see them make their own thing. I feel like that sort of having that happen when I was that formative of an age really had an effect on how I create stuff and how I like when I have ideas, I rarely have ideas for like, oh, this is a good Spider-Man idea, or this is like an interesting Batman idea. Mm-hmm. It's like what is my version of that? Like, is there a way to make that where I don't have to have it be somebody else's creation? I can just do a story with, and own it and and do whatever I want with it.
Yeah, because I mean, that was right around the same time for me too. Like just going in and always being like Marvel and DC, and then you heard about Rob and Jim and Todd and everybody leaving Marvel at once, and they're on the top of the books there too. And that really opened up the gateway for independent comics. And you can really see like the beauty of the art, and especially doing the creator own, because you get to do really amazing stories and really kind of have no limits about what you want to do except your imagination.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt very freeing. It was at a time when you're just sort of like growing up a little bit and discovering how the world all fits together, to have the people who were at the time like all had my dream job. I mean, still do probably, and have them just go like, well, we're going to do whatever we want. It was such a, it was such a radical thing to have happen to, when I was a kid. I'm sure to them, they just thought like, well, this will be better for us financially. But for me, it was like, it's mind blowing,
Yeah.
But it really changed.
Definitely awesome stuff. But let's put some awesome stuff out in the universe. Let's hope. Actually, not hope. Let's just put it out in the universe. Farrell gets an animated project on, pick whatever streamer picks you up, because, hey, we're not going to turn down any money, I'm sure. But, I mean, Hulu is owned by the House of Mouse, so it'd be, advantageous for them, I guess. But I will take it on anything, Amazon Prime even, whatever. But we're going to give you the casting here. Who would you cast as the voices of Lord, Patch, and Elsie if it was to ever go to a animated platform?
Oh, man, I never thought about this before. Huh. That is a good question.
May I?
Yes, please give me suggestions.
Dante Bosco as Lord.
Rufio?
Yep.
Rufio.
Okay.
Rufio.
Susan Eisenberg, Wonder Woman from Justice League, as Elsie.
Elsie, okay.
And as far as Patch, honestly, there's so many good actors. I think that's like where you throw out for like a big name and just hope you get it. Like just some oddball A-list celebrities like, yeah, I want to try voice acting. Like give me a Hugh Jackman. Just pull it right in. Like give me Hugh Jackman. Why not?
Like
Ryan Reynolds could do it,
Chris
that
Evans.
seems too. Both of those seem too
to
fun.
America's,
What, you got something against Canada?
No, we got but Chris Evans. I mean, Chris Evans would be, you're looking at the heroic one, according to Cat, at
great.
least.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Patch is the hero right now.
That's America's, cat butthole. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
So when you were saying this, because we all have the same feelings, well, maybe except for Tom, about Elsie, I think that's where you have to go with like, a Fran Drescher kind of the voice. Let's go over the top.
I say Gigi is Fran Drescher being the Pris. Yeah,
Maybe.
absolutely.
Maybe.
And,
Some Lady Gaga, maybe.
Yeah, Elsie, like the thing about Elsie is that the way she's drawn and the way we play her, like she's the iconography of the series. And so you want her to be like, you want to sneak it on people that she's screwing up. You don't want them to just be like, who's this asshole from Jump? So I think Susan Eisenberg is a good call. You'd want her to have sort of like that classic cartoon voice.
the gravitas that comes with it for being that lead female.
So the leader. Trish, who do you think should play Patch?
Yeah, super chat. You can definitely throw your picks in about this as well.
By the way, we did get one earlier. I don't know if you saw it. That about where you could go with the horror cover was Monster Squad. Somebody threw
Monster Squad is good. We did. Andy Price did a Monster Squad for Stray Dogs that came out really great for the Dog Days series. Yeah, would be fun to do a Monster Squad one.
Could we do Killer Cats from Outer Space?
That's interesting too. That makes me want to Google. Like I know what the VHS cover looks like, but I wonder what the movie. Sometimes I try to always just do the movie poster, but sometimes I will do like this DVD cover is better than the movie poster. I don't know. I try to have some sort of constance in the homage cover.
I'll do Toxie.
Yeah,
Toxic Avenger.
I don't care as much about the wackier side of horror movies. If it gets too sort of like rubber masky, I sort of
Fair enough.
True, very true.
Yeah. Well, I know we're coming up on the time, but we can't stress enough about this book. And I know the next issue is coming out April 30th. So if you have not checked out Feral yet by Image Comics, you need to go get this in your collection. Trade paperbacks are out. You can get caught up very, very quickly, and trust us, you don't want to miss this. This is more than just your average horror story. There is heart to it. There's danger. There's excitement in every single issue. And I think I speak on behalf of the entire team here. We are absolutely blown away every month this book comes out.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
We really love making it, and we're really putting everything into it. So it's nice to hear that it's having the desired effect, that it's working on you guys. So like you said, issue 12 comes out in a couple weeks, and then we just turned in 13 as well. So the arc is proceeding apace. We're trying to have this thing out monthly. We put out 10 issues in the first year and a trade, and so that's basically how we're running it. We're doing monthly, and then we take a month off for the trade, and then we come right back and we're monthly. Hopefully some of your listeners want to jump on and give it a shot. 2 trades in stores now, and then you just got to buy 1 issue and you're caught up. And we started doing like previously ons in the beginning of the issues now, because we figure we're sort of deep enough in that it's a good idea to catch people up every month. And I read comics every month too, so I understand going like, where did we leave off? What's going on here? So
I am a monster fan.
Easy to jump on. You're a fan of those?
I love those because I think that it's always a gateway for readers to pick it up. If they're even like, if they just see the cover and they want to say, oh, this looks interesting, they can immediately jump in and get the bullet points and then go right into the story. And then if they really like it, they can go back. I always think that is such a valuable asset to any comic that does it. And I don't see it enough in the current market, but I wish it would come back like in everybody's book.
Well, I know
go ahead. Sorry.
Some Marvel comics are doing them now. I know DC is sort of like resistant to them. But if you're doing your own, create your own comic, and like we're doing, where we're trying to make it run for a long time, like there's nothing stopping you from from giving readers a quick recap besides pride. Yeah. part of me goes like, they should remember. But yeah, I think about every book I pick up and I'm just like, what happened? Where are we?
Well, I was going to just say that. I was like, as a greedy on the professional side of things, reviewing books, it's nice to have a little flash. Because like, every week, doing different books. And of course, even because I'm not just reading ones to review, I'm also reading ones as a fan. And as most of us are, like you're reading them as, you're creating them, you're also reading as a fan. And so it gets to a point where you're like, what did happen? Like, even if you love the book, you're just like, it's nice sometimes to just have that, that's what happened last issue. Yeah. And then it all comes back. Like that little bit can make it all, like the whole issue can flood back just with going, that's happened and that. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's where we are. I just think it's awesome.
Would love for Saga to get one of those. That would really change my whole life.
That would be amazing.
Because as it stands, once every 2 years or something, I have to reread all of Saga to get caught back up to it and jump on with the new arc or whatever. Like I would love to just a little, like we put pictures of all the characters and we say whoever, we're doing the most. Just give me something. Give me a taste.
Yeah. No, it definitely could be used for that series, but no doubt about that.
Speaking of taste, before you guys did the Kickstarter or the fundraising for the Stray Dog plushes. Are we going to possibly see Feral plushes as well down the road? Can we talk about that?
Yeah, we can. I'm not. Dynamite is running is still running the Stray Dogs plush things. I know that they are getting that all put together. But Feral, we have our own. Like Dynamite licensed that book from us to do merchandise with. But Feral, we haven't licensed to anyone, so we could do whatever we want. And Baxter, come on, buddy, what are you doing? This guy's hungry. Trish loves plushes, and she's designed a bunch of them, and she's designed a Feral one. I think we even have a prototype of one. So we've been back and forth, talking about it and sort of figuring out what's the best way to do something like that. Yeah.
Oh, look, so Trish is our design, Ken's favorite. There you go.
That's right. Everybody can get their favorite girl.
Hey,
Trish
listen,
designed her when they were still friends, when her and Elsie were still tight.
I'll have it right next to the patch one when it comes out, so Elsie can see every day what she does or she's responsible for. Yep, it's like every day. This is what happened. Look what you did.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a lot to stay on top of the book every month, and so just if we could figure out a way to, because I would love to just do like you can just get it through us, almost like the way you used to get like American Splendor dolls from Harvey Picar's wife would just mail them to people. You just order them through the book. Or I feel like there was a Bone doll that you could get through Bone. Like part of the romantic comic fan in me loves the idea of those sort of like, oh, you just got them from the people that made the book, but also like, who has the time? I would really have to set something up like that,
No, I was gonna say I think I actually had one of those Bone dolls from Heroes Illustrated. If I wasn't mistaken, they were doing a giveaway. They were doing it with the team behind Bone.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So
pretty cool.
That'd be awesome to bring back for Farrell because, like I say, everybody really needs to check this book out. We can't stress it enough. Issue 12 is dropping on the 30th. Tony, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us. We definitely have to talk to you a little later down the road after the arc catches up.
For sure. I'm happy to come back whenever. We can have Trish come on too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Love the show. Appreciate you guys spreading the good news about Farrell and about everyone's comics. You guys are doing a real service. Like I said, there's no Wizard anymore. There's no CBR anymore. So it's important that you guys are out there sort of ringing the bell every week. It definitely makes a difference. It means a lot to us. So we appreciate you guys.
Appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much for that. And on behalf of Rich and Tom, we'll end it like we always do on Turn a Page. When you're at the comic shops and you have a great issue in your hand, such as Farrell 12 or any other Farrell issues that Tom should have in his hand.
I didn't bring them.
You didn't bring it?
They're all boxed up right now.
Well, see, that's why you should bring it next time.
We're
But that's
using a
why you need to go
blank
buy multiple copies, because if you have Farrell in your hand and you see somebody struggling to find something at the shops, hand yours off to them. Tell them to turn a page. We'll see you next week.
Meow.
Meow.